The baptism invitation came on expensive ivory cardstock with my niece Emma's name embossed in gold letters. My sister Vanessa had spared no expense. The ceremony would be at St. Catherine's Cathedral, followed by a reception at the Riverside Country Club. "You'll be there, right?" Mom had asked during our weekly phone call, her tone making it clear this wasn't really a question. Vanessa really wants the whole family together for Emma's special day. Of course, I'd said, because what else could I say? I didn't mention that I'd written a $5,000 check for Emma's nursery furniture 6 months ago. Or that I'd covered Vanessa's hospital bills when her insurance fell through. Or that over the past decade, I'd quietly transferred $94,000 to various family members for various emergencies, celebrations, and temporary loans that were never repaid. My family thought I worked as an administrative assistant at a financial firm downtown. They thought I made maybe $45,000 a year. They thought my small apartment and 10-year-old car meant I was barely scraping by, just generous with what little I had. They had no idea I was a senior portfolio manager at Whitmore and Associates, one of the most prestigious wealth management firms in the state. They didn't know my salary was $167,000 plus bonuses. And they definitely didn't know about my personal investment portfolio, which I'd been building methodically for 12 years and was now worth $847,000. I'd never corrected their assumptions because the moment my family knew I had money, they'd want more of it. And I was tired of being the family ATM. But I went to the baptism because I loved my niece, and because some part of me still hoped that maybe, just maybe, this event could be about Emma instead of about what I could provide. I should have known better. The cathedral was beautiful. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, painting the pews in blues and golds. Emma looked angelic in her white christening gown, completely oblivious to the drama that was about to unfold. The ceremony itself was lovely. Father Murphy's words about family, faith, and future were genuinely moving. Vanessa cried happy tears. Her husband Marcus looked proud. For 45 minutes, everything felt normal. Then we got to the country club. The reception room was decorated with white roses and pale pink ribbons. Round tables with cream linens filled the space. A string quartet played softly in the corner. There were 33 guests, family, close friends, Marcus's parents and siblings. I found my assigned seat at a table with my parents, Aunt Linda, Uncle George, and 2 of Vanessa's friends from college. Mom hugged me tightly when I arrived, and for a moment I let myself relax. "You look tired, sweetie," she said, touching my cheek. "Are they working you too hard at that office?" "I'm fine, Mom." "You should ask for a raise," Aunt Linda chimed in. "Assistants are so undervalued these days." I smiled noncommittally and reached for my water glass. The first course was served, a delicate butternut squash soup. Conversations flowed around me. Marcus's mother was asking about Emma's sleep schedule. Uncle George was telling a story about his golf game. Everything seemed fine. Then between the soup and the salad course my father stood up. He tapped his champagne glass with a fork, the crystal ringing out across the room. Conversations died down. All eyes turned toward him. "I want to take a moment to talk about family," Dad began, his voice carrying that authoritative tone he used when he wanted people to listen. "Today we celebrated Emma's baptism. We welcomed her into our faith, into our community, into our family legacy." People smiled. Vanessa beamed. "And speaking of legacy," Dad continued, "I want to share something that demonstrates the kind of selfless love that makes this family strong." My stomach dropped. As most of you know, my oldest daughter Andrea has been working hard for years. She's never had much. She lives modestly, drives an old car, works as an assistant, but she has a good heart. I gripped my fork so tightly my knuckles went white. "What you might not know," Dad said, turning to smile at me, "is that Andrea has a small investment account. Nothing major, she's been putting away a little money here and there, being responsible. And today, in honor of Emma's baptism, Andrea has decided to transfer that entire investment portfolio to Vanessa." The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Mom clasped her hands together, tears already forming in her eyes. "For Emma's future," she added, her voice trembling with emotion. "For college, for opportunities, for security. That's what family does for each other." Vanessa stood up, one hand on her heart, looking at me with shining eyes. "Andrea, I don't even know what to say. That's so incredibly generous." Marcus raised his glass. To Andrea's sacrifice. Several people echoed the toast. I sat frozen in my chair watching this performance unfold. Dad gestured for me to stand. Come on, honey. Say a few words. Every face in the room turned toward me. Expectant. Grateful. Already convinced this was decided. I stood slowly. No, I said quietly. The word dropped into the silence like a stone into still water. Dad's smile faltered. What? No, I repeated louder this time. I'm not transferring my investment portfolio to Vanessa. I never agreed to this. Mom's face went pale then flushed red. Andrea, we discussed this last week. You told me about it last week, I corrected. You informed me this was happening. I never agreed. Vanessa's expression shifted from gratitude to confusion to something harder. Are you seriously doing this right now? At my daughter's baptism. You're the one who made my private finances a public announcement, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Don't blame me for responding publicly. Dad's face darkened. He set his champagne glass down hard enough that liquid sloshed over the rim. This is what I'm talking about. This selfishness. You have a small savings account that you don't even need. You don't know what I have, I interrupted. And your sister has a child to raise, a future to plan for, real responsibilities. And I don't. My voice rose. I don't have responsibilities. I don't have a future. You're an assistant, Andrea. Dad's voice boomed across the reception hall. You answer phones and schedule meetings. Vanessa is building a real life. She deserves security. The string quartet had stopped playing. Every single person in the room was staring at us. So what I've built doesn't matter? I asked. What I've saved, what I've planned, what I've worked for, that's all worthless because I don't have a husband and a baby? That's not what he's saying, Mom interjected, reaching for my arm. We just think. I pulled away from her touch. You think my money should be everyone else's safety net. Dad took a step toward me, his jaw clenched. You know what? You're right. Your money isn't worth anything because you aren't worth anything. You're a selfish, ungrateful daughter who thinks her pathetic little savings account makes her special. The words hit like physical blows. Vanessa gasped. Dad. No, he cut her off, his eyes locked on mine. She needs to hear this. We raised her better than this. We taught her about family, about sacrifice, about taking care of each other. And she spits in our faces over some petty cash in a savings account. My hands were shaking. The entire room watched in horrified silence. I pulled my phone from my purse. What are you doing? Mom hissed. Making a phone call, I said calmly, though my voice wavered. I scrolled through my contacts, found the name I needed, and pressed dial. It rang twice before a familiar professional voice answered. Andrea, is everything all right? Hi, Richard, I said loud enough for people nearby to hear. I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday, but I need you to bring my portfolio statements to the Riverside Country Club. All of them. Your complete portfolio documentation? Richard Chin, my wealth manager for the past 8 years, sounded concerned. Is there a problem? There's about to be clarity, I said. How long will it take you? I'm actually just finishing lunch downtown. I can be there in 40 minutes with everything you need. Perfect. Thank you, Richard. I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my purse. Dad laughed, but it sounded forced. What is this? Some kind of dramatic gesture? You think bringing bank statements to your niece's baptism is appropriate? You made my finances the centerpiece of this reception, I said quietly. I'm just providing accurate information. I sat back down and picked up my fork. The room remained silent for a long, awkward moment. Then the string quartet hesitantly resumed playing. Conversations slowly, carefully restarted at other tables. But everyone kept glancing over at our table where the tension was thick enough to cut. Vanessa sat down heavily, her face flushed. Marcus whispered something to her, but she shook her head. Mom leaned close to me. Andrea, please. Don't do this. Don't embarrass this family. I'm not the one who should be embarrassed, I said, staring straight ahead. The next 40 minutes were excruciating. Salads arrived. Main courses were served. I pushed food around my plate while my parents shot me furious looks and Vanessa refused to meet my eyes. Aunt Linda tried to make small talk about the weather. Uncle George looked profoundly uncomfortable. The friends at our table made repeated excuses to visit other tables. At exactly 2:47 p.m., Richard Chin walked into the reception hall. He was dressed in slacks and a button-down shirt, casual for him but still more formal than most guests. He carried a leather briefcase and moved with the quiet confidence of someone who managed hundreds of millions of dollars for high-net-worth clients. He spotted me immediately and made his way through the tables. Every head in the room turned to watch him approach. "Andrea," he said warmly, shaking my hand. Then he nodded politely to the table. "I apologize for the interruption. I'm Richard Chin, Senior Wealth Manager at Whitmore & Associates." My father's expression shifted from anger to confusion. Richard placed his briefcase on the table and opened it. "You asked for your complete portfolio documentation. I've brought quarterly statements for the past 3 years, plus the current real-time valuation." He pulled out a leather folder and handed it to me, then addressed my parents directly. "I should mention Andrea is one of our most valued clients. She's been with us for 8 years and her portfolio management strategy has been exemplary. Most people her age don't have this level of financial discipline." Mom's face had gone pale. "Portfolio management?" Richard smiled. "Andrea's investment portfolio. Stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, a diversified real estate investment trust and her retirement accounts." He glanced at me. "Did you want me to walk them through the breakdown?" "Please," I said quietly. Richard opened another folder and pulled out a single-page summary. As of market close Friday, Andrea's total portfolio value is $847,293.16. That breaks down to approximately $340,000 in equities, $215,000 in fixed income securities, $180,000 in her 401k and Roth IRA, and $112,000 in her REIT positions. Complete silence. Dad's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Richard continued, professional and unbothered by the shocked faces around him. "Her annual returns have averaged 11.3% over the past 5 years, which is exceptional. She's on track to reach millionaire status within 18 months. He looked at Vanessa, who had tears streaming down her face. "I understand there was discussion about transferring these assets. I need to clarify that Andrea's portfolio is structured with specific long-term goals. Liquidating or transferring these assets would trigger significant tax penalties and completely derail her retirement planning." Marcus found his voice. "Wait, Andrea, you're a wealth manager." "Senior portfolio manager," Richard corrected. "She manages accounts for clients with assets between $5 and $50 million. She's one of our top performers." Mom made a strangled sound. Richard pulled out another document. "I also brought records of the loans Andrea has made to family members over the past decade. I've been advising her to formalize these arrangements, but she's preferred to keep things informal." He glanced at me. "Until now, I assume?" He set down a spreadsheet. Names, dates, amounts. Every emergency loan, every temporary help, every gift that was supposed to be paid back. $94,000 in total. Aunt Linda leaned forward to read the list, her eyes widening. "None of these were repaid," Richard observed neutrally. "From a financial planning perspective, Andrea has been subsidizing her family's lifestyle while they believed she was living paycheck to paycheck." He looked at my parents. "That's actually quite remarkable generosity, considering she was doing it on what you thought was a $45,000 salary." Dad's face had gone from red to gray. He sat down heavily. Vanessa was crying openly now. "Andrea, we didn't know." "I know," I said softly. "That was the point." Richard closed his briefcase. "I'll leave these documents with you, Andrea. If you need anything else, just call." He nodded to the table. "Enjoy the rest of your celebration." He walked out the same way he'd entered, calm, professional, leaving absolute chaos in his wake. For a long moment nobody spoke. Then Mom reached across the table, her hand trembling. "Andrea, sweetheart, we had no idea." I stood up, gathering the documents. "I need some air." "Andrea, please." Vanessa's voice cracked. I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. She was crying, her mascara running, her hands clutching Marcus's arm. "I love Emma," I said quietly. "And I'll set up a college fund for her." A real one in her name that nobody can touch. But I'm done being the family safety net. I'm done being treated like I don't matter because you thought I didn't have anything worth taking. I picked up my purse and the folder of documents. The baptism was beautiful, I said. Congratulations on your daughter. I hope she grows up understanding that a person's worth isn't measured by how much they can give you. I walked out of the Riverside Country Club into the bright Sunday afternoon. My phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from Richard. That was intense. You okay? I typed back. Getting there. Thanks for coming. Anytime. And Andrea? I'm proud of you. Standing up for yourself is harder than managing money. I smiled through the tears that were finally starting to fall. Then I got in my 10-year-old car. The one I drove because it was paid off and reliable, not because I couldn't afford better, and drove to my small apartment. The apartment I chose because I was saving for a house, not because I had no other options. I had options now. And for the first time in a decade I was going to choose myself.